With playoff races tightening across the NHL, the latest edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast has to break down the contenders from the pretenders with our top 5 Stanley Cup threats that are going to be impacting your ability to build a fantasy squad. Let's tap into the Tuesday episode and get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. Springtime hockey, it's on the horizon. Fantasy playoffs aren't the only thing we're focusing on. On the daily 30-minute source that you need for fantasy hockey news, the latest edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with Steele and Flip has to take a look at the top 5 Stanley Cup threats, odds, fantasy sleepers, and some breaking news from the Florida Panthers. All of that before we get to big-time bets. Shout out to the everydayers making us your first listen every single day. You know what it is. Steele and I show you that love because you do the same to us. Over to you, Mr. Rodin. Before we get to these top 5 teams, this is going to be an interesting situation for the Florida Panthers. Over to you. What's going on, and what's your take?
Breaking news, Aaron Ekblad is done for the regular season, getting a 20-game suspension for violating NHLPA performance-enhancing substances. He already released a statement himself to his Instagram page on social media, basically stating what a lot of athletes out there do when they get into some of these predicaments. He took some medication. He took something without, talking to the team doctor. And unfortunately, it's a banned substance in the National Hockey League. So obviously, Aaron Ekblad at this point, he's an immediate drop. He's not going to be. You're not going to be able to use him at all for the rest of the regular season. So immediate drop for the Florida Panthers, and we're going to talk about them on this top 5 list.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, a team that's going to be in the postseason, but now without Aaron Ekblad and Matthew Tkachuk, still without Brad Marchand, this is going to be tough for them. Especially when they're battling for top position in the Atlantic Division, still with the Tampa Bay Lightning and Toronto Maple Leafs. So they're going to make the playoffs regardless, but to get home ice advantage and to potentially have home ice advantage for the entirety of the playoffs is crucial. And without 3 of those key players right there, Matthew Tkachuk, Marchand, and Ekblad, we could see maybe a potential dip. They could fall, maybe slide back into that 3rd position in the Atlantic, but they're still a playoff team. That's why they make it onto the top 5 Stanley Cup contenders on this list.
Can't wait to talk about that. Just very quickly, I think this Aaron Ekblad situation just leaves a gaping hole of minutes for this blue line to be filled. 23 and a half minutes this season for Ekblad, who's putting in, a pretty good fantasy season. 33 points in 56 games, 106 shots on net, 53 PIMs. You're getting solid peripheral value with 90 hits. 64 block shots as well. Not irreplaceable in the fantasy game. We'll have a whole bunch of options for you on Waiver Wire Monday. You might even be able to look internally here if you're in a shallow league and perhaps pick up a Seth Jones. Probably not going to happen. More likely Nico Mikkola is out there, but the minutes are going to have to go around. And I think more importantly, and we can get into the Panthers in a second, this might just actually really take away from the snarl of their blue line. Still, though, playoffs, they should have Tkachuk back. Ekblad should be back as well, and I think they're going to be just fine. You made the excellent point about the standings and home ice advantage. However, let's talk about a team. If you don't mind, I'm going to get right to my list. That's been sensational at home over John Cooper's tenure. And look, this is the deepest cut on the list. This is the longest odds at plus 1,300. And I know I'm taking Tampa Bay on this list over the likes of, and I'm teasing now, Winnipeg Jets, Washington Capitals, Carolina Hurricanes. They don't make my list. The Tampa Bay Lightning scare me. John Cooper is on a special kind of coaching heater. You got Vasilevsky looking like the old Vazzy, and you have a team that made a couple of really nice bolstering moves that you and I really like in acquiring those Seattle Kraken pieces. So I want to get this out of the way now and just say somebody put some respect on the Tampa Bay Lightning, because at plus 1,300, to me, that's not nearly enough respect. So I got Tampa sliding in here at 5 Steele. And, you know, we always want to kind of tie this back into fantasy, like always, we're trying to bring that lens for you guys. Pay attention to the Tampa Bay Lightning down the stretch. That third line, Gord, Nick Paul, Goncalves. This is going to be a line that I think actually you're going to be able to find some value in deeper leagues. So you're talking about sleepers. You're talking about some piece that you can get here. Top 6 not going to be there. That third line is going to be really important for this team. They come in at number 5 on my Stanley Cup threat list.
Hey, somebody's got to shout them out, and that person is you. They will be an honorable mention for me at plus 1,300.
They don't
make the top 5 lists. Again, some of the other teams as well, Carolina, Washington, don't make it for me. But actually, the team with the highest odds who come in at number 5 for me, it's the Toronto Maple Leafs at 1,500. They're at number 5 on the list. I hope they're on your list. They have to be on your list.
They are not.
List. Okay, surprising. They made number 5 on my list. And I really just think for me, this is a team that has now been built to win. And obviously, we know in the postseason, a lot of the top guys, Matthews, Marner, sometimes Nylander, Morgan Rielly, don't show up on a nightly basis, don't contribute offensively. I think defensively is where it really sticks its head out for me. Sure. I have a lot of faith in Joseph Woll and Anthony Stolarz. I know they haven't been playing great over the last, 3 to 4 days, 3 to 4 games. But this is a tandem that has been top notch all season long. You have Mitch Marner, who's absolutely flying out there, playing for a contract.
It's a fact.
He's heard the doubters, he's heard the haters out there. He's playing for his pride. He's playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I feel like he's also going to have a really good postseason, which I have been one to call him out over the last couple of years myself. When you look at the defensive group of Chris Tanev, when he comes back from injury, Jake McCabe, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Stanley Cup winner last year, and Morgan Rielly, who's really jumped up offensively over the last month as well.
True.
And then Brandon Carlo. I really like the group that has been put together for this upcoming season. I hope they get home ice advantage, hopefully finish first in the Atlantic. One of my X factors from the Toronto Maple Leafs, who I think is going to be a big key factor in the first round and through the course of the playoffs, Matthew Knies. He's been a contributing factor over the last 2 seasons. He's made himself known for being a physical player. We just saw him fight White Cloud the other day against the Vegas Golden Knights. He can be that type of player for the Toronto Maple Leafs while also contributing and facilitating, playmaking, and everything above. So Matthew Knies, X factor for me. Maple Leafs coming at number 5.
We're trying to also throw out some of these fantasy angles that we expect to play a major role in these teams' push to that Stanley Cup. A lot of our year-to-year league steal that we get our listeners kind of throwing questions at us, it's going to go right down to the wire for you guys. So if you can still get a piece of some of these players, we're going to try and highlight some of those guys outside of the ownership level that you can get them at. I'm excited to talk about the rest of the list, Steele. On the Toronto Maple Leafs front, though, before we get to bets to wrap the show, Steele and I will be here the rest of the week breaking down everything that you need. Tap into Waiver Wire Monday episode specials all the way to the end of the season. However, Steele, I guess all I have to say about the Toronto Maple Leafs is this, and it's something that isn't exactly a hot take. This team will go as far as number 34 carries it. Period. In the postseason, Austin Matthews has taken a lot of heat. I understand it. When you're talking about just numbers, 72 points in 82 career games played in the postseason, it's not like he's been invisible. He just has to get it done in those big moments, which I would say a lot of those points come in almost quote-unquote garbage time. However, can he get it done in the postseason? Of course he can. He just hasn't done it yet. So to me, this is very simple, and why they are not in my top 5, honorable mention for sure. I'm not trying to poo-poo on the Leafs. The moves that they made at the deadline make them a tougher team to play against. They're in trouble right now. They don't look good. I actually think Austin Matthews is hurt. So if my angle is on this, that Austin Matthews needs to lead this charge in a very, very big way, and he's hurt, I'm concerned about throwing money at it. I'm concerned about coming on here and throwing them in the top 5. They're close. Shout out to you, though, because, I still feel it, Steele. And once April comes, we come anew, my friend, just like the rest of today's episode. We got 4 through 1 top cup threats. We got X Factor fantasy players that you could get a piece of. We got bets coming in hot for tonight's 11-game betting board. But first, our friends from Factor need a little love. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Factor. If you're looking to optimize your nutrition this year, Factor makes eating well with easy, chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to nam in 2 minutes. With over 40 options across 8 dietary preferences, every week you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle, whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, or all you need is Factor that offers wholesome smoothies, breakfast, grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day. Steele, I'm getting ready to crack into some Factor right about now because you know how I feel about snacking, and there's no better way to get in on it other than wonderful pistachios than Factor. Right now, eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50. Use code LockedOnNHL50 off to get 50 off your first box plus free shipping. That's Locked On NHL 50 off at factormeals.com. Locked On 50 off. Get 50 off, free shipping, and your first box.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day, Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning is when you can find our episode. Stanley Cup favorites, our favorites. So this is very subjective. Our favorites, we look at, which teams we really like to go on a deep cup run.
I think these lists are pretty good, though, Steve. I don't think they're too crazy.
Leafs are too good. However, I do have to disagree with your statement on Austin Matthews having to be that guy, having to, they go as far as he takes them. I don't think it's solely on him. It's a whole team contribution. And, if he's not performing, I think Nylander performs. It's not Nylander, it's Marner. Obviously you want all of them going, but I don't think it's just Austin Matthews who will be the one to take them or as he'll be the one to go as far as they go just solely on him. I also have to disagree with you on the Winnipeg Jets. The Winnipeg Jets deserve to be on the top 5 list for me. They make it at number 4. They have the 8th best odds at plus 1,200. And the sole reason for them being in the top 5, it's Connor Hellebuck, the best goaltender in the world, in the National Hockey League right now. And I will say this for the Winnipeg Jets. They will go as far as Connor Hellebuck takes them because it's true. He has been a very disappointing goaltender in the postseason. So have the Jets, just not able to get out of that first round for majority of the time they make the postseason. However, they've gotten to this point with the team they started with. I know they've added a few players, obviously, at the trade deadline, Brandon Tanev, Luke Schenn, that gets them a little bit tougher, which they were already probably one of the toughest teams to play against. Top team in the league right now alongside the Washington Capitals at the top of the leaderboard in the standings. I really like the way Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele have played this season.
No doubt.
They've been in the conversation for the Rocket Richard. Well, Mark Scheifele's been in the conversation for Rocket Richard. I know, obviously, Leon Draisaitl kind of skating away with that at this point. This is a tough team to play against. And I know they haven't been able to get it done in the postseason, and that is a negative that, it goes against them being on the top 5 list. But the fact that they started off the season, 15-game win streak, hadn't lost a game, putting outstanding numbers from Connor Hellebuck, offensively, Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele doing it, Josh Morrissey, Neil Pionk on the back end, jumping in offensively again. This is a dangerous team. It's going to be hard because of the teams in their division, which we'll get to in Colorado and Dallas. So it makes it more difficult, but they deserve to be number 4 on the list for me at plus 1,200, 8th best odds.
Yeah, I can't look, Leafs, Jets, they would have been right there. Caps right there for sure. I don't think there's a real argument that can be had about those top 7 or 8 teams.
No, it's all subjective.
That's where we're getting interesting here with, I guess, when I look at my team at 4. By the way, you have the Oilers on this list or no?
No.
Not the Oilers on this list. So I think this is where I'm going to have to disagree the most because I understand what you're going to say. Stuart Skinner, Calvin Pickard. I get it. But when you have the 2 best players in the NHL, you're going to be a Stanley Cup threat. We saw it last year. They played very similarly, and they took it with actually not as good a roster.
They don't even have the best player in the NHL.
All the way to the brink, Steele. You can't deny that the roster this season is a little bit more balanced with some of the moves that they've made. And now I know the goaltending. Anyway, Edmonton Oilers at 4. When you have McDavid, when you have Draisaitl, example just last season, Magic can happen. No other team in the NHL, other than a team that I'm going to talk about, has a lethal of a 1-2 punch than the Edmonton Oilers with Draisaitl and McDavid. That's a fact. That's not something I need to argue. It's just the truth. Is the goaltending going to let them down once again? Very much possible, Steele. We've seen it already. Hiccups big time, and we're not even April. But I guess when I'm looking at some value on this team, we thought Matty Savoie was going to perhaps be a little diamond in the rough. I think, depending on it, I know Frederick's hurt right now. I think if Trent Frederick can somehow weasel his way into the top 6, then that you're looking at an X factor right now written all over it. A guy that can hit, he can bring you some peripheral love. If he starts to chip in and get a little offensive boost, disagree with me about the Oilers in the top 5. But if Trent Frederick comes back and finds some sort of way to get on that second line with Leon Draisaitl, then I would say you've got yourself a stud little bonus piece down the stretch that could make the difference. Oilers at 4, I think they really do have to be on this list. Although I'm not going to disagree with you about what the Jets have done. I just don't like what they have up the middle. And that second line Vlad Nemestikov situation is not exactly giving me a whole ton of confidence. And you said that yourself earlier this week.
I did. And I will say, look, number one, Connor McDavid's not the best hockey player. It's Nathan McKinnon. He's by far.
We'll have another conversation.
We'll have another conversation.
Save the minutes for another day.
Number 2, when you go down the list of this Edmonton lineup, it is not good. Podkolzin and Victor Arvidsson, who we actually really liked going into the season, they've not contributed whatsoever. Jeff Skinner, not contributed. You go down even further, Connor Brown, Adam Henry, Corey Perry, guys that are good in the bottom 6, but offensively, they're not going to contribute in the postseason. You already know how I feel about Stuart Skinner in the postseason, or how he's played recently. That's why they don't make it for on the top 5 for me. Number 3, though, is the Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars come in at number 3 for me. Second best odds right now on FanDuel at plus 600. Again, after trading and signing for Mikko Rantanen, they have to be on this list. There's a reason they're the second best odds right now. You have 2 goaltenders, especially Jake Ottinger, playing really well. The blue line without Miro Heiskanen, Thomas Harley has stepped up in a huge way. So I'm excited to see how he goes into the postseason as well. But when you look at the overall lineup offensively of this Dallas Stars team, to me, one of the best offensive groups right now, especially when they get Tyler Seguin back in the lineup. Roope Hintz also took a puck to the face in the game the other day, so he might be out for a little bit of time right now. But other than that, when you go up and down this lineup, top to bottom offensively, all 12 of those guys, they all stand out. You've talked about Maverick Bourque as a waiver wire option. He's third-line centerman. Sam Steele, Oscar Back, who have contributed offensively a little bit, play a little bit of a deeper game. Mason Marchment on the third line, Dadonov on the third line. That runs deep in Dallas. The thing is, too, like this team over the last 5 years, they've been so close. 2020 lost in the Stanley Cup Finals. 2023 lost in the West in the Western Conference Finals. Same in 2024. They've been so close to winning. Mikko Rantanen could be that difference for them. They make it at number 3 on my list.
They're much higher on my list, Steele, and, I can talk about it then. They have the best penalty kill in the league this year. Yes. To combine that with what they have just done to add more wrinkle to their offensive potency, and then you have a goaltender like Jake Ottinger, which, for me, that's what I want to talk about when we get there. It's somehow kind of interesting that a goalie of his fantasy caliber and how good he has been in the regular season might be my main concern, quote unquote, in terms of those.
And it's valid. That's valid, though.
Those big moments, he's somewhat not been there for them. So I want to talk about them. They are at my number 1 spot, and I'll explain it after the fact. Number 3 is the Florida Panthers. Obviously, this Ekblad, Tkachuk, and the injury situation is a wrinkle. Yeah. Let me just get it out of the way now. Paul Maurice, Sergei Bobrovsky. If you're worried about anything else,
baby,
fall back on our boy Paul Maurice, an absolute beautician. John Cooper, Paul Maurice, 2 of the best in the business. They might be on a crash course to go through each other. This playoff season is about to get real spicy up in here, Steele, very quickly. The Florida Panthers are an extremely, if not the hardest team to play against. And if all goes well, injuries or otherwise, and it goes Tkachuk, Bennett, and then, of course, Marchand, and then you have the confidence on the back end of what they will have, and they will get Ekblad back.
Yeah.
To me, this team almost made it in at 1 once again, but there's another team that I have to tease, and we'll get there. Let me just break this down too, because when you have a goaltender like Bobrovsky, he's had in 43 games for the Panthers over the last 2 seasons in the playoffs, a .912 save percentage, 2.53 goals against, and 3 shutouts. That gives your team a chance to win every single series, and I expect them to do just that once again. There are so many good teams in the East. There's going to be 4 or 5 left on the cutting room floor. Over to you. Let's get to break. Let's get to bets. Let's get to these top 2 Stanley Cup threats.
Top 2 contenders from both Flip and I. Of course, big-time bets for Tuesday night. But first, this episode is also brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller for longer. Personally, Flip and I, we love the no-shelf variety. It's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days, whether I'm just snacking at my desk, on the road, in my car, or just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to snack. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite as well. Whether you're running between meetings or dropping off the kids, Wonderful Pistachios are the best snack that works as hard as you do. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. And once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Don't worry, Flip. We'll get there. Thank you so much.
It was glitching. My bad, Steele.
Hit the subscribe button. Hit the follow button. It does that sometimes, but we love all our listeners out there. Thank you so much for showing us all that love and support. We appreciate it. So thank you for all that. Number 2, Flip, over to you, my friend. Who's on the list?
I think I spoke about this. You sent me the Instagram post of how there's been 47 different players in the Colorado Avalanche lineup. And I think I even said it before they made all the trade deadline moves, is considering how much upheaval this roster has witnessed. And I'm talking about both goaltenders. I'm talking about key franchise faces up front, injuries on the back end, and new players all across the roster. It might be a bold take to say that I like this team second to win the cup, and I know one game that I just watched closely against the Toronto Maple Leafs doesn't mean anything, and this is going to play nicely into your Mac Daddy take. This team is reloaded, retooled, and ready to make some noise. Arturi Lehkonen, McKinnon, Necas up top. Nelson, Nichushkin, Drouin, even a nice third line now. Ross Colton, Charlie Coyle, Kiviranta. Lots of different angles you could take this. I'm going to leave it at this. Can Cale Makar take over a series like we've seen him take over games for most of his career? Because if he starts playing like that, I have a whole ton of confidence that this value in this bet is going to start dropping because the odd is going to really decrease. So let me hit you with this deal. They come in at number 2. I thought about them at number 1. I like Dallas more because of what's going on in the cage. Is Mackenzie Blackwood the guy that you really want to lean on when it comes down to it? Maybe he is. He's looked pretty good. And they are a reloaded, much better team in front of him. At the end of the day, my X factor looking at this lineup, we mentioned him on Waiver Wire Monday. Check it out for the full breakdown. Jonathan Drouin has a great opportunity on his hands here. Is it a lot to expect a guy that has been so inconsistent to be an X factor fantasy-wise? He has it all in front of him here. Brock Nelson and Nichushkin are looking great already. He's centering the top power play unit. If he continues to center the top power play unit, Steele, like I said yesterday, auto add. Go out there and get Drouin. I love what the Avs have done. They come in at number 2, Steele, and to wrap this up with the bow, you're getting a juicy plus 900 from our friends at FanDuel right now, which I probably, out of this whole angle, like the most.
Yeah, look, that's why they're at number 1 for me, and I'll get to that very quickly. Number 2, I have the Florida Panthers for every reason you said. Obviously, without Tkachuk, Marchand, and Ekblad now, but when the postseason rolls around, they're going to be back. You still have one of the best goaltenders in the Eastern Conference in Bobrovsky, who can really just play out of his mind, become a brick wall, and almost just stop everything. So,
yep.
And like you said, Paul Maurice, one of our favorite head coaches in the National Hockey League, he knows how to get his players invested in the game, knows how to fire them up and get them going for every single game on a nightly basis. They come in at number 2. Number 1 for me, it's the Colorado Avalanche. And they have absolutely undressed and revamped this entire team over the course of the last five months. They saw a problem early in the goaltending. What do? They go out and trade for 2 new goaltenders.
Yeah.
2 new goaltenders in Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood. Their goalies previous, both Georgiev and Noonan, were below an .875 save percentage, with Blackwood and Wedgwood, both guys above a .915 save percentage. Key difference in this Colorado Avalanche team. Like you said, the post I sent you, they've had 47 different players dress up in an Avalanche uniform. That's not even including the goaltenders. It's actually 54 players who have dressed up in a different in an Avalanche uniform this season. They've completely revamped this team. And like you said, bringing in Brock Nelson and Charlie Coyle, another problem they saw going into the postseason was the depth down the middle. They bring in 2 veteran players. Who can play that position with a lot of confidence, contribute offensively as well. Defensively is very important factor for why they went out and acquired them. But when you look at this team as well, you still have Valerian Nichushkin, who is an incredible player in front of the net, around and below the goal line. Again, bring in Brock Nelson, Arturi Lehkonen, Jonathan Drouin, who could be an X factor. The bottom 6, Jack Drury, Jimmy Vesey, Miles Wood, who comes back as well. On the blue line, you bring in Eric Johnson and Ryan Lindgren. This is a new-looking Avalanche team, but they have the best player in the National Hockey League in Nathan McKinnon. They have the best defenseman in Cale Makar. And for Mackenzie Blackwood, this could be a season where you kind of compare it to Darcy Kemper. You're not sure about it, but they go on and win a Stanley Cup anyways, and then gets a really good contract, which I know Blackwood already signed. But regardless, Avalanche number 1 for me.
Dallas Stars come in at number 1 for me. And when I look at this lineup, if Roope Hintz is in there at that number 1 center position, where I tip the edge to this team over every single club in the NHL is the ability for Pete DeBoer to roll 3 dangerous, balanced, and experienced lines with a little bit of everything. Puck possession is so essential in the postseason, just like special teams. Also, take in, if Roope Hintz can't come back, or even if he does, they also brought in Mikael Granlund, a player who has played his whole career for the most part at center, who had a really good year. Then you bring in what you have already done with Mikko Rantanen, and this is just a beast. Back end, I told you my concerns about Jake Ottinger's ability to really show up in the clutch. And the main concern has to be that right side, Ceci, Lyubushkin, Matt Dumba. I actually love Matt Dumba on a third pairing, but can he stand up to the Nathan McKinnons, the attacks of the Edmonton Oilers if it gets there, and so on and so forth? There's a question mark there. Without Miro Heiskanen holding it down, and I apologies out there, I actually don't know if there's a chance he comes back, at what point that is in the postseason. If he doesn't, then I have even more concerns. However, Steele, the forward group is good enough to take this team to a cup. And Jake Ottinger is good enough, even on a bad day, to still beat most goaltenders in this league. So they come in at number 1 for me, the top power penalty kill in the league, and they also, I believe, sit 4th in overall total goals. So when you get it done at both ends of the ice, and you have now Mikko Rantanen on the top line with Jason Robertson, there's not another team out there that has a winger combo like that, in my opinion. You mentioned the one duo that I'd be worried about, and that's why they come in at 2. It's Makar and McKinnon. But my goodness me, if it comes down, those teams are going to go through each other, and that's going to be a treat. I can't wait for the postseason. Let's get to bets very quickly. Fire off your 3, and I'll fire off mine.
Big time bets. Let's get to it. Lots of intriguing games Tuesday night. First pick. If you're going to give me the Lightning on the money line at plus 110, I'm going to take it 9 times out of 10. And I'm taking it tonight against the Hurricanes. Lightning have won 5 of the last 6 meetings against Carolina.
Boom.
They're playing some really good hockey. I know they lost recently, but first pick, Lightning on the money line plus 110. Second pick, bet this a week ago. It nailed for me. Going back to it, Avalanche on the puck line against the Minnesota Wild at plus 132. They're 8-2-0 in their last 10 games. 5 of those 8 wins by 2 or more goals. The Wild are struggling without Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson-Ek right now. They're down bad. That's the second pick of the night. Third pick, Capitals on the money line at minus 188 against the Anaheim Ducks. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10 games. I'm hesitant to go on the puck line because a lot of these matchups have been very close, 1-goal game actions. Those are my 3 picks. Lock of the night, though, Avalanche on the puck line against the Wild.
Well, you're going to like my first pick then. Avs money line, boom. Don't need to explain much more than that. Actually, we explained it quite thoroughly over the course of this episode. Hit me with the Avs on the money line on the road. Columbus takes on the Jersey Devils, and this one kind of jumped off the page to me, Steele, and I think you'll back me up here as an over. 5 of Columbus's last 6 games over the number, and what was the other one here? 5 of Columbus's last 6 games on the road over the number, and 6 of these last 9 meetings between these two over the number. It's sitting at 5.5. I probably would have taken it at 6.5. So hit me with the over. Jackets, Devils, over 5.5. Lock of the night. We talked about this team on today's episode at length as well. I know the Boston Bruins just came off a big 4-0 shutout victory that made us all look bad against the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yep.
I don't think they run that back twice against 2 good Florida teams.
Not a chance.
6-2-2 in their last 10 against the Boston Bruins. On the road, too, you're going to get probably a pretty decent odd for the Florida Panthers, considering how much I think they are going to shellac this Bruins team. Hit me with the Cats on the money line against the Bees as my lock of the night.
I think the money line right now for the Panthers is sitting at minus 210. The puck line is around plus 130. So
slap it into your favorite parlay.
If you're feeling frisky, take the puck line. But I agree with you. Take the Panthers on the money line going into Boston. Those are the big time bets. Those are the locks of the night. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. From your boys here on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod, we wish you good luck with those weekly matchups, your big time bets, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.